Hello, my name is Chitta and I am one of Bante's students. We realised recently that if people wanted to make donations to Bante, it wasn't necessarily very easy. It doesn't have a fixed address and therefore a fixed donation box. So we've added a link below if anybody does feel like they want to offer some dana in any way. Obviously it's going to a wonderful cause. It's supporting the sasana and helping support the translation of all the suttas and the recitation of the suttas. So if you feel that way inclined, then please do click on the link below and support this wonderful monk. Thank you. May you be well.
Despite all the things that we see and know and recognize as being wrong in the world today, things that are not supposed to be happening, all that is against universal values, there's still a lot of good that's being done, witnessed, experienced in the world. The other day, someone was telling me how they had parked their car and someone basically, well, not someone, but they come back and they look at their car and it has received a citation, meaning a parking citation, a ticket for parking a little bit longer. And they didn't know, they hadn't, paid attention perhaps, but and to their surprise, they're like, oh, I got a ticket. Of course, that never makes a person feel good. Oftentimes it can ruin a person's day or week. But to their surprise, they reach over to see how much do they now have to pay for the ticket, and then they notice how the envelope under the window wiper of the windshield of the car, it feels a little bit heavy. So they reach into and they see that there's some cash. So now it's a curious thing. Wait a minute. Instead of a ticket, I got a cash. Somebody put money there. Well, apparently the ticket is there, but somebody had, not this person, the owner of the car, but someone was passing by and they noticed this car getting a citation. They reached over right after and they looked and they saw, oh, there's this ticket. So let me see and check my pockets how much cash I have. So they put some cash into the envelope and just to pay it forward. Somebody they don't know, but they know definitely how it feels like to discover that you've received a ticket. When I was in Europe, I was introduced to this thing called, I noticed this in Italy, where places where they, people go to get some coffee, so coffee shops. They have these tiny little pieces of paper attached to the wall behind the counter. Apparently, whoever wants to buy coffee and they have extra money, extra change or whatever, they would say, pay it forward. So for the person who would show up later, who doesn't have the money, but who needs coffee, who wants to get some coffee, well, it's already paid for by someone they will probably never get to see or know. These are beautiful gems. We have to acknowledge these beautiful things that lift our humanity up. gives us hope, it gives us inspiration. Because of whatever's been happening during at least the last year, just last year. One thing after the other, one stupid thing after the other. One aimless, deplorable movement after another that depletes us of our culture, of our social heritage as a population. But then again, you see this, or another incident I was informed about, where the grandmother of one of my students, she's at the market, she's buying, her groceries, and then she sees this man whom she's never seen, younger than her, who tells the cashier, I will take care of the costs of all that she has in her cart, the lady behind me. And then she finds out, she says, no, I have the money. She shows even the money to him. And then he's like, no, this is just a gesture. I would like to, I feel generous. I feel like I have to do this. Please don't take this away from me. What a beautiful, beautiful action. So there's a lot of worthwhile things going on in the world. We need to see more of this. But instead of waiting for these stories to reach your ears, why don't you make those ripples happen? Each of us. Why don't we do that? Each one of us in our own way. We have stopped being inspired. Why is that? There's no reason for it. The circumstances will be the circumstances. That should never be enough of a reason for us to stop. The grass outside on the lawn, whenever it's mowed, the gardeners come and they clip and they cut the grass. For years I noticed how they're so encouraging the grass. They're so resilient. They're so defiant. They never give up. They're relentless, in fact, in being positive, in wanting to continue to grow. We have a lot to learn from the world around us, from the plant life, from the animal life. Things don't come in certain packages. Especially beautiful, worthwhile things. I think it was last week or the week prior, I'm not sure, but in one recent talk I mentioned how one should not look for the Dhamma in temples and centers. Well, apparently that has been raising some, eyebrows. And of course it's a big, statement. And some people have been wondering about that. Many people are really happy that there's an acknowledgement finally because of something that they have been seeing for decades and decades, but no one's been touching on the subject. No one's been saying anything. So it was very welcome. But for at least several people, that has been raising some questions as to what this means then. What should be our position then? Does this mean that we should stop going to temples? We should stop going to centers altogether? We should stop respecting monks, etc.? No, not at all. Remember what I just mentioned earlier about expecting things to come in certain packages? That has to go out the window. That the Dhamma, or the teachings of Lord Buddha, whatever that has been pulling us to want to learn and understand more, cannot come to us from an institution that is external. What this means is the Dhamma is deep. There's a depth to the Dhamma. It can never be trivial. It can never be trivialized, no matter how much effort people put in, because you are living on a planet that is geared towards the superficial. In one of the biggest areas where superficiality really blossoms or grows unhindered is within the religious arena. I don't care what type of religion it is. You have examples of this in the Christian church or churches. They've been making bank, as it were, for over almost 2,000 years, if not more. But people go because it's an institution. It's a culture. And people like to be around others who think and behave and do things or wear or follow certain customs just like them. And vice versa. So it just resonates and they just do it. But there is not much truth there. True religiosity. What this path is purporting to be, especially when it comes to the Dhamma, which is so deep and it is so personal. It is not, cannot be a series of customs, rituals, ceremonies, which is what the temples and centers and monasteries usually have turned into. But our task is a personal one. It can never be collective. So to go looking for a refuge within the walls of a temple or a monastery, that is wrong. The real monastery, the real sanctuary, if you will, the real refuge can only take place within your mind. The mind is the forerunner, is the foremost, is the chief of all of the states, good or bad, that you find yourself in, that in fact you place yourself in. Your thoughts lead the way. Your intentions lead the way. Your views lead the way. And you cannot find right view in the collective. Right view cannot be through the echoings of others. you can be inspired. That's why we use the suttas, the discourses. We look up to certain teachers who become role models, should become role models if they are the embodiment of virtue that is not changeable. That means however they behave in public should be the same as they behave in private, and the vice versa. They cannot behave in a certain way while they're alone or in private, and then in a totally different way when they're in front of a mic or a camera in public. Whatever they say needs to match their behavior. And if we're talking about monastics, about monks, and specifically about individuals, teachers who are serving in the role of guides in this Dhamma and discipline, then the goal has to be helping you become liberated, released from suffering. Not just now, but using this life of yours to break free from suffering. The way to do that is to follow the step-by-step method introduced to us by Lord Buddha. So, the example of the teacher, the guide, ultimately and throughout has to be based upon the example of Lord Buddha and the Arya Savakas. So whatever comes out of the mouth of the teacher needs to be based upon the teachings of Lord Buddha. Something else that I had mentioned in one of the talks recently has been the fact that we cannot have the Dhamma be our own proprietary Dhamma, meaning our own version of it, modern, this fluid thing. There's this whole nonsense nowadays of this fluid, that fluid, ethical fluidity, moral relativism, and nonsense like that. Where a criminal is basically justified in doing their crimes. That's what it is. Saying, essentially. Whatever's a crime for you might not be a crime for me. Basically, that's what this whole fluidity business is saying. Because it is pulling the rug from under our civilization. Civilization is out the door, in fact. There cannot be culture. There cannot be advancement of civilization. It ruins. It is ruining. So one of the last bastions of hope and advancement of civilization has been and is still, fortunately, the Dhamma, the teachings of Lord Buddha. Because they don't require you to believe in a higher power first. The changes that are going to come into your life to improve the quality of your life, to bring joy, happiness, peace, contentment, tranquility, clarity, understanding, wisdom, protection, have nothing to do with another person over there, higher power, somewhere over there. Or the points that you want to score with them. With these higher powers, none. It requires you to follow a series of steps. very methodical, very carefully, described. Right view, having the right view is very important. Having the right intention after the view. You need to have the right thoughts stemming from that view to make it more understandable, to make it more pertinent with the life you're living. And because of those thoughts and intentions, right thoughts, you inevitably will be speaking the right words. And as you continue speaking the right words, inevitably you're also going to engage in right action. Right as in for everyone. Because in the mind of the criminal over there, they might be doing, quote unquote, the right thing for them and their buddies. Look at every politician out there. Look at every banker out there that are depleting, that are emptying out people's life savings without losing a second from their sleep at night, comfortably, sleeping away, waking up in their yacht the next day, in their 200, 300 feet yacht, totally unconcerned, oblivious, uncaring, apathetic. In their mind, they're doing the right thing. That's not what we mean in Buddhism, in the Dhamma. And when you have right action, then inevitably what you're talking about is living a life, earning your livelihood through rightful, correct, universally acceptable, kind ways where you're making a good living, doing the right thing. If you're a drug dealer, from one day to the next, now you're living in a mansion. Yesterday you were living in a shack. Because of the drug deals and this and that, you're making a lot of money. So in the minds of many people and yourself and your peers, yeah, you're doing the, quote unquote, again, the right thing. Just like the banker, the politicians. That's not what we have in mind. That's not what Lord Buddha was referring to by the right thing. Because that same person who's selling drugs, how are they going to behave if their own young daughter ends up being a customer of theirs, buying or using the drug that they're selling? You know, these tech giant heads like Steve Jobs and other people, Apple and others, who would make all these things in the 90s and 2000s, you know, the iPhone, this, that, iPad. They would not allow their children to have a cell phone. When they're pushing people to buy a cell phone for their children, they were not allowed to have iPads. Especially at the dinner table. Meanwhile, everybody else is a customer, except for their own family. So they must know something that the rest of the population is being denied, while they're being pushed to buy some. So you see, double standards. So whatever you deem to be unfit for your own family, you must also regard the whole society as an extension of your family. Now then we're talking about the right livelihood. So you're taking ownership. You're taking responsibility of your actions towards as it befalls upon the society at large. You're viewing it as your larger family. Now we're talking about universal values. So if every CEO, if every head of whatever, bank that keep printing money while the economy goes down the tubes, while people lose their homes, meanwhile they're giving themselves bonuses. If they themselves think, while using universal values, nobody will go poor. Nobody will be going hungry to bed. Everybody will be off the streets. No drugs will be introduced into the streets, because they would be living while looking at others, their neighbor, truly as their own family. Now, this is not a utopian thing. This is something that people actually do in the grassroots level. You see this, but in the common area, with the ordinary people, that's what I mean. So there isn't that discrepancy when we say right livelihood. Similarly with right effort. So right effort has to be put into place. People keep talking about, well, there needs to be ceasefire, there needs to be peace, there needs to be... Meanwhile, they go and iron their cash. They every day they check their bank balance to see how many billions of dollars do they have this week added into their account. So the person becomes less and less interested in their narrow vision of success, what it means for them, which is at the basis of apathy. Empathy doesn't have those boundaries. It's not a compartment, like airtight compartment of me, what's in it for me. Those walls have been demolished for a person who's truly empathetic. And right effort encapsulates that. And when you have all these preceding right steps from the Noble Eightfold Path, you will come to what we say in the Dhamma, right mindfulness, right sati. Because for the longest time, people always presume that mindfulness is always good. No. Mindfulness is not always good. A person who's fixated on robbing you is very mindful. Pickpocketers, these people that sometimes are being reported. Like in Europe, you see this a lot, in bus stations, trains, this, that. People have to be very, very vigilant. Why? Because there's other people who are very vigilant, but for the wrong reasons, because they're trying to see how they can scam you. So right mindfulness has to be there. And then you have a right collectedness of mind, or right concentration. Because of right mindfulness, then inevitably you come to identify what is wrong concentration from what is right concentration. Right concentration or right collectedness of mind, in the Dhamma we call it Samma Samadhi. What that means is you identify what is it at the end of the day that is allowing you to reach deeper and deeper states of contentment, tranquility of mind. Is your heart appeased? And no, you will never be appeased even if you have $1 trillion in your account, where no one's going to be able to touch you because you know the right people and you've been serving them very well. That's why you're still there. No. You still are always sleeping with one eye open, as they say. That is not appeasement. You know it's only temporary. It's slavery, in fact. Having the right concentration gives you the means for right release, right liberation, the Lord Buddha calls it. Because all these individuals who are using the wrong means, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong action, wrong speech, they are fooling themselves. They have been fooling themselves that they have already reached right liberation. They are free from the burdens that the common people have to face. The difficulties that others are facing, they're immune to that. So they are free. They are above the system. They are the system. They are aloof. This is wrong, release, because it's based on wrong understanding, wrong knowledge. Because this person has forgotten something very crucial to be considering. And that is, there is death. Not only death, but there is destruction. Think of the richest people ever. Some of them who are alive today, or richest people from past history. That somehow they still linger in the pages of history, in books. Everything they ever fought for, where are they now in the grand scheme of things? Everything that is conditioned, everything that is put together, everything that is prepared will be scorched, will be destroyed. The body, the health, the youth, the money, the wealth, the sex, the power, the control, the land, all of it. So it is a person who is wise enough to pause and consider these things that gets to eventually taste true liberation, true release, right liberation. And you didn't hear me talk about anything about a higher power, about getting down on your knees and praying to someone else. Not to belittle those types of traditions. No, not at all. Some of us need that, I get it. But in this path, the direction is clear. The person has all the control, all the power they need to dictate, to understand, and to behave a certain way. And that certain way has to be based on empathy, consideration, on loving kindness, universal values. Treating someone else as you yourself would like to be treated. Not treating someone else the way you do not want to be treated. And then to purify your mind, to purify your heart. Because ultimately you know that there needs to be this sense of urgency, because tomorrow I might not be alive. That impending death scenario is everyone's lot. Everyone will face that. So a wiser person will notice this, and they will reevaluate their position, their direction in life. For that, you realize that you are the main lead actor in your life. You are the director, you're the writer, you're the screenwriter, you're the stage manager, you're the cinematographer, you're everything, including the usher, including the audience. You're everything. So please stop looking for some ritual ceremonies from so-called tradition to save you or to save the day. None of that is ever going to do that. So it's time for you to grow up and stop relying on someone else, something else outside of you, or events in life to somehow turn around so that you end up living a better life. And this is the only area where you really have a level of control, by the way. You do not have control as such the way things are in the world today, obviously. in the so-called choices that are presented to you, you don't have control over those, because you are presented whatever you are deemed to be presented with. So you don't have a choice in those things, external things. Things are coming at you in the 6 doors that we have: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind. These are always bringing information. So you have very limited control over that. But you can and you do have control over your behavior in response to these things. Hence, the importance, the absolute importance on how you are running this thing called mind, your mind, or is it running you? So, the ball is always in your court. What are you going to do about it? Because death is right there. It's right there. It's right there. It's not for someone else. Death is not for others and not you. It's for every one of us. And no one has immunity to it, from it. So long as we have this very precious thing called a human body, we have a chance to break free. So, let's break free the correct way.